St. Patrick's Day is alive and well with our two-man hockey panel, Rotowire's Paul Bruno and host of the Fantasy on Ice podcast for NHL.com, Pete Jensen. 10 games to choose from, so let's have you choose from it your favorite DFS plays. Once again, McDavid and Draisaitl highlighting the center position on tonight's slate. They go up against Buffalo at home, so ownership, expect that to be pretty high. What's your approach to the center position tonight? Would you try to fit both in your lineup, Pete?
It's tough. I mean, there are so many great options on a big slate like this. I think top of my list is a guy I talked about on the previous show, JT Miller, 13-game point streak. I think he's dismissing a lot of the trade rumors with his recent performance and a favorable opponent against the Detroit Red Wings, who are giving up like 5+ goals almost every single game these days. And then another center I'm looking at is a bit more under the radar, Rem Pitlick from the Montreal Canadiens. He's playing with Cole Caufield, who has been outstanding ever since that coaching change to Marty St. Louis. He's got 19 points in 15 games since the coaching change, Caufield. But Rem Pitlick is a rookie who's been producing at even strength all season long. He's around the top 10. Actually 5th in even strength goals among rookies and 7th in even strength points among rookies. So this is a hidden gem. We haven't talked about him much, but he's been producing and he's the center on Caufield's line. So definitely get him in your lineup.
All right, I'm counting here about 6 guys that'll cost you at least $7K, Paul. At center.
I love the calls that Pete made. They're both guys that are on my list, so I will not talk more about them, but outstanding picks. If you go to the top of the board, I always wonder why there's a discrepancy between McDavid and Draisaitl. It's $700, and I'll make the case. McDavid is the one that's shooting more right now. He's got 42 shots on goal in his last 10 games, where Draisaitl has only 24. And McDavid's got 14 points, 7 on the goals. That's where the big point totals are in the DK. So he's outscored Draisaitl 7-4 in that stretch. So that accounts for more than a $700 discrepancy. And if you go the Edmonton route, I think you got to go with McDavid. If you want to go a little bit cheaper, though, in between all the guys that are at the top and JT Miller, let's say, the guy that I would focus on is Alex Barkov. He gets that tasty matchup against a Vegas club that's in a shambles right now. He's got 15 points in his last 10 games, 30 shots on goal, averaging over 15 DK points per night on a Florida team that's outscoring everybody this year.
Okay, Paul, if you're paying up at center, which it sounds like you may be doing, it's going to be tough to fit Ovi in your lineup. $8,400, Ovechkin facing Columbus, but fade him at your own peril because he's got 5 goals in his last 6 games. You spending up on the wing tonight, or are you going to look for cheaper options?
Because I'm going to go to JT Miller like Pete suggested on the center ice position. So Ovi makes a real good case for himself every night, but he gets a good matchup tonight against a Columbus team that's not very good at defending their end of the rink. He's got 43 shots on goal, far out shooting almost everybody at the position and averaging almost 16 DK points per night. So that speaks for itself and accounts for his $8,400 price tag. But a guy who's almost right there with him, although he scores in bunches, it seems, is Robertson for Dallas. $6,800 his price tag. He gets the matchup against Montreal. Their defense is going to be a little bit weaker because they got rid of one of their key pieces in a trade yesterday. Don't forget that. He's averaging 17 DK points per game over his last 10 and has scored 43 shots on goal, getting 9 goals in that stretch too.
Pete, what's your strategy here at the wing?
So we were talking about the Edmonton guys. I think a great way to tap into them, because they're always prone to have big nights, is getting Evander Kane into your lineup. You'll have to spend a little bit to get him, but he's been worthwhile so far since signing the 1-year deal with Edmonton a couple of months ago. 17 points and 70 shots on goal in 21 games. And he's playing with McDavid, NHL scoring leader, and Kyler Yamamoto, who's another good value option for fantasy. They're facing the Buffalo Sabres, who are coming off a big week, but maybe a little bit of a letdown upcoming for Buffalo, who's been really inconsistent this season, and they're swinging around on that Western Canada road trip. It might not be pretty for the Sabres, so get Evander Kane in your lineup.
Well, let's save the people some money here back on the blue line. Give me a very inexpensive option. Someone who could be give me someone under 4K who could help your lineup tonight, Pete.
Sure. I mean, there are a couple of guys for sure. I think that, definitely you look at what's going on with the Dallas Stars on their blue line. You could look at Eza Lindell. You could look at John Klingberg as well. I don't know that he's going anywhere at the trade deadline, but we'll see. But if you're worried about maybe, no, this is the time of the year where if a guy's on the trade block, he might get pulled from the game right before puck drop. As a Lindell, I don't think is going anywhere. So, and he's a cheaper option on the blue line who's been heating up a little bit in the absence of Miro Heiskanen, who's out with mono for the foreseeable future. So, yeah, I like Eza Lindell a lot against Montreal. It's a nice bounce back spot for Dallas.
Okay, Paul, save us some cash.
I'm going to give you 3 names to think about also with Dallas. Ryan Suter. This guy has been a point producer all his career in the NHL, and he's thrust into an opportunity where he's the power play quarterback on their first unit of late. He's parlayed that into 6 points in his last 10 games played, and he blocks shots as well. So he's averaging about 7+ points in DK every night. He costs $3,500. Almost as good as that is Dante Fabro at Nashville, $3,300. He's in Philadelphia tonight. 6 points in his last 10 games played, 21 blocks, and 20 minutes per game. He's averaging over 9 points in the DK play every night, playing on their first D pair. And then finally, in Toronto, TJ Brodie of the Leafs. He's not with Morgan Riley of late, and that's given him a chance to make some hay offensively himself. He's taken it upon himself to really show off his skills with the stretch passes, sending Leaf forwards on breakaways, 2-on-1s, it seems, every game. He's responsible for those deep passes, and the bombs have worked out. He's got 7 points in his last 10 games, averaging almost 9 points a game. And don't forget, he blocks a ton of shots, and that's going to come into play tonight because Carolina is one of the league leaders in shots on goal per game.
All right, Paul, we'll get you out of here with this. Slate approved pick. Give me the one guy you need to have in your lineup on this Big Ten gamer.
Well, Pete teased it earlier. Cole Caufield has to be in your lineup tonight. $4,700, the price tag, still not being respected for his recent production. 6 goals, 14 points his last 10 games, pouring shots on goal at a very good rate, over 3 per game, and averaging almost 15 DK points per game. He shouldn't be in below 6, in my opinion. And then Matthew Barzell against the Rangers. Look, he hasn't lit it up all season long, but he's heating up of late. 9 points in his last 10 games played, and it's always a great game when they face the Rangers, a rivalry game in Madison Square Garden that elevates the Islanders, and they've been playing better of late. So I would try to get him in at $4,400. And Oliver Bjorkstrand of the Columbus Blue Jackets won't be highly owned, and that's a shame because he's been pouring in a lot of offense as well. 10 points and 35 shots on goal in his last 10 starts, only costing $4,700 to me.
All right, Pete, Slate approved pick.
I definitely agree with what Paul said about the Islanders. Their offense has been heating up lately, whether it's Palmieri or Anders Lee or Brock Nelson. There's some good value on these guys, whereas normally you look at the Islanders as a team you don't want to get anywhere close to offensively, but they've changed their tune, even though they're, kind of out of contention right now. But in that same game, I'm definitely looking to see if Frank Vetrano is going to be debuting, because if he is, this guy's been an underrated bottom 6 forward for the Florida Panthers. He's actually the 3rd leading goal scorer behind Barkov and Huberdeau over the past 4 seasons combined, which says a lot about his consistency in that department. So if he lands with either Panarin or Zibanejad in the top 6 for his debut, and there are holes on both of those lines right now, I like Frankie in his New York debut to score a goal maybe tonight.